Imagine waking up one morning and your life has just unexpectedly shifted in a major way.
hmm
Not just, a little different, but five new cars different.
Wow. 5 cars.
Yeah, that's what happened to Richard Reed. He was a phosphate pit worker down in Bartow, Florida.
Okay.
Over about 12 years, just through sheer dedication, really, he amassed this just astonishing collection of vehicles: a Ford Thunderbird, a Cadillac Cimarron, Isuzu Impulse, Chevy Beretta, Mitsubishi Eclipse.
Goodness, that's quite the garage.
Right, and on top of that, a Caribbean cruise and over like $40,000 other cash and prizes.
Incredible.
And he still drives his 1978 Thunderbird, apparently.
That's brilliant. Or, think about Wally Krevenchuk. He won this kitchen renovation package worth nearly $50,000.
50,000.
Yeah, and it was so significant it actually allowed him to retire early at 55.
See, that's life-changing stuff.
Exactly. And then there's Todd Villari in Trussville. He was really diligent about entering TV sweepstakes, and it paid off big time. A $50,000 home renovation prize he saw advertised on HGTV's Love It or List It.
Oh, wow. So like directly from watching the show.
Seems like it. And now he's planning a 2 or 3 car garage, a new fireplace, totally transforming his home.
So these aren't just, random isolated strokes of luck, are they?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
What we're diving into today is this really fascinating, often surprising world of contests and sweepstakes where, consistent, dedicated effort can actually lead to these extraordinary wins.
Absolutely. And our mission with this deep dive is to, well, unpack the strategies, the psychology, and the surprising realities behind what it means to be a professional contester.
Or a contest junkie, as some call themselves.
Right, that too. We're going to try and extract the key nuggets of knowledge from personal accounts, old newspaper articles, expert tips from people who've won again and again.
So you'll hopefully gain a shortcut to understanding what it truly takes to win in this pretty unique arena.
And maybe, what it means to actively chase after that next big aha moment in your own life, whatever that might be.
Yeah, we've pulled together a really rich tapestry of stories and insights. We'll trace the evolution from, the early days of really intricate skill-based contests.
The jingles and limericks.
Exactly. All the way to the modern digital sweepstakes you see everywhere now.
Okay.
And you'll hear directly from the winners themselves, their triumphs, sure, but also their often, let's say, unconventional methods.
And the downsides too.
Oh, yeah. Some of the hidden costs, the challenges they faced along the way. It's really a journey into a world where persistence, surprisingly often seems to trump pure chance.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this with some of these truly wild tales of grand prizes. Because when you look at the sheer volume and just the variety of what people have won, it's pretty astonishing.
It really is.
It's clear these aren't just casual folks throwing their name in a hat once in a while.
Not at all. This is serious business for some.
Let's start with maybe the most coveted prize, cars.
Always a big one.
Yeah. Beyond Richard Reed's incredible 5-car haul, which is, that's almost unheard of.
Right.
We have stories like Mrs. Elson. Way back in 1941, she won a new car in a limerick contest.
A limerick. So that's the skill element we were talking about.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is she was already a seasoned winner. She'd previously snagged an electric mixer, a toaster, a deep freeze.
Wow, she was cleaning up.
Apparently. Yet about the car win, the report said she was not too excited.
Not too excited about winning a car.
That's what it says. That reaction alone, it tells you something about the level of winning some of these individuals achieved, right? Where an extraordinary prize becomes almost normal for them.
Yeah, her calm reaction really highlights that, how accustomed some top contesters become to winning. It's a different perspective.
Totally. Now contrast that with John Dempsey. He was a student from Neptune.
Okay.
He won a new 1999 Chevy Camaro Z28, valued at $25,000.
Nice prize for a student. How'd he manage that?
By submitting around 4,000 entries to a single auto sweepstakes.
4,000.
Yep. He even used stickers with his info to save time filling out the forms.
Ah, efficiency. That makes sense.
Yeah.
His story really underscores that volume concept, doesn't it? That sheer quantity of entries can be a winning strategy in itself.
It certainly seems like it worked for him. And then there's Susan Miller. She won her first car, a Ford Taurus, back in '87.
Okay, another car winner.
But wait, there's more. 5 years later, 1992, she won another car, a Ford Festiva.
2 cars. That's impressive.
Impressive, yes, but listen to how she won the second one. She was apparently buried alive in a coffin covered with mulch for 2 days.
Wait, what? Buried alive.
for 2 days, covered in mulch, for a Ford Festiva.
That's not just commitment, that is extreme. I mean, wow.
Right. These stories, they really reveal that winning isn't just about getting lucky. It's about this willingness to put in extraordinary effort, time, and sometimes endure some really, really unique challenges.
Absolutely. That's dedication on a whole other level.
Mm.
Moving beyond vehicles, though, these contesters also unlock these luxurious trips and, once-in-a-lifetime experiences.
Right. Not just stuff.
Exactly. Consider Faye Frasca. Her winning streak started pretty modestly, actually. A $10 prize for a pudding recipe back in 1931.
$10 in 1931 wasn't nothing, though.
True. But over time, her hobby just blossomed dramatically. By the 1970s, she was winning big, included 2 trips to Hawaii from national sweepstakes.
2 trips to Hawaii, from pudding recipes to paradise.
Her story perfectly illustrates how that small initial success can fuel this lifelong passion, right? And lead to increasingly grander rewards.
And it wasn't always about accumulating possessions, like you said. Alan Terry, he was a lawyer in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
He secured a trip for 2 to the American Music Awards. First-class hotel, limo service, the works.
Nice. How many entries for that one?
Get this, 4 entry cards and $1.16 in postage.
4 entries? Seriously?
That's what the source says. He also won round-trip tickets to Madrid and a Caribbean cruise later on.
So sometimes it can be just a few entries. What was his method?
He kept his phone tuned to radio stations, apparently, and just diligently filled out 3x5 cards whenever he heard about something.
Consistency again.
Oh.
See, this tells us that even those small, consistent efforts can potentially yield these incredibly high-value experiences.
Yeah, the payoff there isn't just, tangible wealth, but incredible life memories. That seems key.
That's a crucial point. For many, the true value really lies in the unique experiences they gain. And beyond the big-ticket items like cars and trips, contesters often win these really unique and practical prizes, things that enrich their daily lives.
Like what?
Well, Todd Villari, who we mentioned earlier with the $50,000 home renovation.
Right, the garage and fireplace.
Exactly. He plans to build that garage and also give 10% to his church. So it shows how these wins can support personal goals, even philanthropic efforts.
That's great.
And Barbara Underwood from Floyd, Virginia, her home has apparently been filled with prizes from online sweepstakes.
Online entries seem common now.
Very. In just 1 month, she won a Whirlpool Duet washer-dryer, 2 huge industrial-sized Vaseline lotions,
Industrial Vaseline. Okay.
books, and even a doctor's black bag. Random.
A doctor's bag. What do you even do with that?
Who knows? But her wins were apparently so prolific that in 1998, she didn't buy Christmas presents for anyone. The contest winnings covered it all.
That's incredible. A winning spree that takes care of your Christmas shopping. That really highlights how these wins can be deeply practical, really impactful on the household budget.
Definitely. And for some, these wins have allowed them to achieve major life milestones. Wally Krevenchuk, the guy who retired early.
From the kitchen renovation prize.
Exactly. That nearly $50,000 package literally allowed him to retire at 55. Winning changed his life's trajectory.
Wow.
So these examples, they clearly show that winning in this world isn't just about luck. It really hints at a deeper engagement, doesn't it? A profound persistence, and often a strategic approach.
Yeah, absolutely. What stands out to you from all these stories? Is it the sheer volume of winnings? Or maybe the really unique prizes, like the doctor's bag or the mulch coffin experience?
Maybe not the coffin, but I think it's the mix. It's the volume, the variety, but also the motivation behind it all.
Mm-hmm. It's clear that for these individuals, winning is far more than just random luck. It really hints at that deeper engagement and strategy you mentioned.
That's right.
So that deeper engagement, that strategy, that's precisely what we need to unpack next. Because as fascinating as these winning stories are, the real aha moment, I think, comes when we understand how they do it.
Right. The mechanics behind the wins.
Yeah. And this isn't just throwing your name in a hat. There seems to be a real strategic playbook at work here.
There often is. And one of the most significant shifts you see when you look back is how the nature of contests themselves has evolved over time.
How so?
Well, in the past, say from the 1940s through the 1960s, contests often required genuine skill. These were really the glory days for people who loved a creative challenge.
Right, we're talking about the contests where you had to actually do something creative, crafting jingles, writing catchy slogans.
25 words or less essays, completing limericks.
Like Mrs. Elson winning her car with that limerick back in 41.
Exactly. Or Faye Frasca, honing her talent by crafting jingles about tomato sauce. That won her that initial $10 pudding prize, remember?
I do. These weren't about random chance at all. They were about a very specific kind of mental creativity, verbal dexterity.
Precisely. And these skill-based contests were so prominent that, as Faye Frasca recalled, there were actually state and national conventions devoted entirely to sharpening your contest skills.
Conventions for contest skills, like professional development for contesters.
Sort of. It speaks to this dedicated community, almost like a professional pursuit, where people actively hone their craft. But then, the landscape started to shift pretty significantly in the 1960s.
Towards
Random draw sweepstakes, games of chance.
Okay, so what prompted that change? It sounds like a pretty big departure from the skill-based stuff.
Well, one perspective, like Faye Frasca's, was that sweepstakes are actually much fairer because winning isn't tied to having special training or being a great writer. It just depends on, getting your entry in, maybe multiple times.
So more accessible, maybe?
Potentially, but not everyone was thrilled with the shift. Jessie Oleinik, who was a really renowned Canadian contester, she kind of lamented that today's contests are no longer creative. Now it's all sweepstakes and a lot of luck.
I can see your point. It feels like maybe some of the artistry or the challenge was lost in favor of just, well, luck and volume.
That seems to be the sentiment from some of the old schoolers. It definitely changed the game entirely. And interestingly, there were even some clever legal workarounds involved, especially in places like Canada.
Why Canada specifically?
Well, sweepstakes requiring a purchase were technically illegal there, considered lotteries.
Ah, okay. So how did companies get around that?
They found ways to circumvent the law, as one source put it. For instance, to avoid requiring you to buy the product. They would allow what were called facsimiles, basically hand-drawn copies of the product label or the entry form.
So you didn't even have to buy the cereal box, you could just draw it. That's pretty clever.
It leveled the playing field, didn't it? It meant dedicated contesters could enter repeatedly without spending a fortune on products they might not even need.
Ingenious. And the skill testing question, that was another workaround.
Exactly. That was key in Canada. To legally qualify as a contest of mixed skill and chance, rather than a pure lottery, it still needed some element of skill, however small.
So after they drew your name randomly,
You'd often get a phone call, and you'd have to answer a mathematical question, usually within a time limit, like, what's 10 times 5 divided by 2 plus 7?
under pressure, on the phone.
Right. Judges even taped the calls sometimes to protect against lawsuits if someone messed up the math. It was a gatekeeper, really, designed to add that necessary veneer of skill to what was mostly a game of chance.
Wow. It just shows how companies and contesters adapted to the rules, finding creative ways to keep the sweepstakes model going.
It really does. The whole system adapted.
Okay, so whether it was skill back in the day or mostly chance and sweepstakes now, the sheer volume of these winning stories tells us one thing loud and clear.
What's that?
Persistence. It seems absolutely paramount. It's like the #1 rule in the contester's playbook.
It genuinely seems to be. The most consistent advice you hear from seasoned contesters is unequivocal. Enter often and enter many different contests.
Like Richard Reed, our 5-car winner, he's a prime example.
Definitely. He enters between 800 and 1,000 contests a year.
800 to 1,000. That's more than 2 a day, every single day.
Yeah. And he even admitted to stuffing ballot boxes at public stores multiple times for local draws.
Really? Just filling them up?
Seems like it.
Sure.
His personal maxim sums it up. Never put all your eggs in one basket. None of them may hatch. Spreading the effort.
That's a lot of eggs and a lot of effort. And Barbara Underwood, remember her? The one who won so much she skipped Christmas shopping one year?
The prolific online winner.
She takes this volume principle to the digital realm. She enters around 500 online submissions daily.
500 a day. How long does that take?
She says about 3 hours a day.
Wow.
Her philosophy is simple. If you don't enter them, you can't win them. Straightforward. This isn't about hoping for a lucky break. It's about actively creating your own luck through sheer volume.
It really shifts the perspective from passive hope to active participation. But beyond just sheer quantity, some contesters also develop these really specific strategies around entry timing and even the physical appearance of their entries.
Appearance? Like, how?
Well, for paper entries, people like Phil Harrison and Ramona Iwanica suggested accordion folding them.
Folding the paper? Why?
Their theory was, well, a couple of things. One, it might make the entry physically stand out in a big drum or box full of flat papers. Two, it might prevent entries from sticking together because of static electricity.
Huh. A small detail, but maybe in a sea of identical entries, they figured it could make a tiny difference.
That seemed to be the belief, just trying to get any edge possible.
And what about timing the mailing? Was there a consensus on that?
Not really. There was actually conflicting advice. Phil Harrison, he preferred sending multiple entries on different days.
Why different days?
His reasoning was better to have entries in 3 mail bags than 1,
Okay.
just in case the judges only sampled mail from certain delivery days, spreading the risk again.
Okay, that makes a certain kind of sense.
But on the flip side, you had Freddie Stokely Sr. He suggested entering as late as possible, right before the deadline.
Why late?
His theory was to get the entries on the top of the pile when the judging started.
Ah, the recency effect, maybe? Interesting. So even the timing was subject to these strategic calculations, trying to game the system in subtle ways.
Exactly. And then there's the really debated topic of visual flair, making your entry look different.
How so? Like fancy paper.
Sometimes. Carol Schaffer, for instance, she would apparently crinkle her entry form slightly.
Crinkle them!
Yeah, and use colorful envelopes, different stationery, an assortment of markers and pens, just trying to make her entries visually distinct.
Did others do that?
Oh, yeah. Iris Evans, who is actually a government minister in Alberta, but also a huge contester.
A minister. Really?
Yep. She made her own envelopes with slogans and cartoons on them. She even had her kids do collages on the envelopes sometimes.
Wow. Family project.
And Steve Ledoux, another big winner, he went for brightly colored, larger than normal envelopes. And he'd stick pictures of animals on them, but no snakes. He wanted.
No snakes. Okay. Any particular reason?
Just superstition, maybe. He'd add lucky messages, too.
Okay, that's a fascinating split. Do you think it's purely superstition for some, this visual flair stuff? Or could there be like a psychological edge? You know, feeling like your entry stands out? Maybe that gives you confidence, even if the judges don't technically care.
It's likely a bit of both, isn't it? The belief itself could be incredibly motivating for the contester. It gives them a sense of agency, of doing something extra.
Right?
However, it's important to note that Rich Henderson, the editor of the Big Contest newsletter, was pretty skeptical. He basically said your money's better spent on more stamps, not stickers.
Why not stickers?
Well, they might detach in the mail sorting machines, apparently, and the Postal Service doesn't actually favor them. So the actual effectiveness for the recipient is really debatable.
So psychological boost for the sender, maybe, but questionable impact on the outcome.
That seems to be the consensus from the experts. But regardless of the flair or the folding or the timing, there's one rule that is absolutely paramount, non-negotiable.
Let me guess. Follow the rules.
Exactly. Follow the rules precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this, because it seems like attention to detail is maybe even more important than creativity or volume sometimes.
It often is. No matter what other strategies they employ, following the rules precisely is consistently emphasized by almost every single winner we looked at. Neil Carroll's system, for instance, strictly involved following contest rules to the letter. No deviation.
And why is it so critical? Just avoiding disqualification.
That's the main thing. Phil Harrison reinforces this. He stated, "Do exactly as the rules say. That will keep you from getting disqualified." And then he added something interesting. "I understand that 25% of all entries in contests are disqualified because of failure to follow directions."
25%. A quarter of all entries tossed out just for rule errors.
That's what he understood, yeah. Whether that number is exact or not, it highlights the scale of the problem. Mrs. Seltzer, who was a seasoned contester and even taught contesting skills,
Okay.
she put it bluntly, "If you are told to use 25 words and you use 26, your pearls of wisdom are going to be thrown out. Doesn't matter how good it is."
Wow. So no room for error. Marcia Snipes said something similar.
Yep. Do exactly, word for word, what the contest rules say to do. Donna Gallagher also emphasized following instructions exactly. This strict adherence isn't just a suggestion. It's like the critical first gateway to even having a chance at winning.
Okay, rule number 1. Read and follow the rules. Got it. Beyond that precise execution, though, selecting the right contests seems to be another key strategy. It's not just about entering everything blindly.
That's right. Being strategic about where you focus your efforts. Phil Harrison, for instance, often chose contests that offered more prizes, even if they were smaller, over contests with just one single grand prize.
Why? Better odds.
Exactly. The odds of winning something are inherently better when there are multiple prizes up for grabs. Wally Krevenchuk advised a similar approach, opting for contests with a fair number of prizes, rather than putting all hope on winning the one big jackpot. It shows a practical understanding of probability.
Makes sense. Spread the chances.
And being selective about the sponsor is also crucial. Wally Krevenchuk and Iris Evans, they were both wary of contests from little-known sponsors.
Why is that? Risk of scams.
That's part of it. Sometimes those can be thinly disguised sales pitches or ways to collect your data or, yeah, outright scams. Barbara Underwood, who enters hundreds of online sweepstakes, she always checks the websites for legitimacy first. She sticks to ones run by well-known companies to ensure they're trustworthy.
That's just smart self-protection online these days. But interestingly, some contesters actually look for the opposite. They seek out obscurity.
Right, believing that fewer entries mean better odds for them. Steve Ledoux, for example, suggested targeting the most obscure and least known contests for precisely this reason: less competition.
So a completely different strategy.
And Phil Harrison also looked for contests that required 2 or 3 or 4 things to enter. Like maybe you had to send a proof of purchase and fill out a form and answer a question.
Because fewer people would bother with the hassle.
Exactly. Those extra steps naturally reduce the number of participants, increasing the chances for the diligent contester who actually follows through.
Clever. Finding the path of most resistance, almost.
Sort of, yeah. And timing, seasonally, could also play a subtle role, according to some. Phil Harrison noted that entering in summer is better than winter.
Why summer? People on vacation.
That was his theory. Fewer people are typically thinking about contests or sending in entries during the warmer months when they're busy with other things.
Interesting observation.
He also pointed out that shorter contests, ones that run for just a few weeks or a month, generally offer better odds compared to those that run for a whole year. Again, just because there's less time for a huge pool of entries to build up.
Makes sense. Less time, fewer entries, better odds.
And one more crucial point, a legal one that many contesters like Laura Barstow and Phil Harrison highlight,
Yes.
is that no purchase necessary rule. In many places, it's against the law to require a product purchase to enter a sweepstakes because that would make it an illegal lottery.
Ah, right. Like the Canadian example.
Exactly. Which means contestants can often enter using just a simple 3x5 index card with the product name written on it, or by requesting a free entry form, even without buying the item.
That really levels the playing field, doesn't it? It allows dedicated participants to scale their efforts without going broke buying products.
It's a cornerstone of modern sweepstakes law and a key tool for serious contesters.
Okay, so if you're listening and thinking, wow, this sounds like something I could maybe get into, you're probably wondering where these professional contesters actually find all these opportunities. It's not like they just stumble upon them.
No, definitely not. It turns out there's a whole infrastructure supporting them, especially back in the pre-internet and early internet days. But it still exists now.
Like what kind of infrastructure?
Well, many successful winners subscribe to specialized newsletters and publications. These serve as their primary source of contest information.
Okay.
Richard Reed, our 5-car winner, he subscribed to 2 different sweepstakes magazines. Faye Frasca, remember her?
The pudding recipe winner who went to Hawaii?
That's the one. She found her contests and apparently even met her husband, Joe, through a contest magazine.
No way! Found love through contesting.
Seems like it. And Laura Barstow, who tracked her spending, subscribed to a newsletter that listed hundreds of contests regularly.
Are there specific names that kept coming up?
Yes, several winners, including Alan Tereri, the lawyer who won the trip to the American Music Awards, mentioned the contest newsletter. Apparently, it had over 600,000 subscribers at one point.
600,000, that's huge.
Massive. And Sweepstakes Update was another one mentioned. These publications were clearly vital lifelines for dedicated contesters. They functioned almost like their daily intelligence briefing for finding new opportunities.
That's a good way to put it.
There were others too. Wally Krevenchuk and Ramona Iwanica mentioned a Canadian one called Winning Ways, which apparently taught tips like that accordion fold we talked about.
Ah, okay.
Iris Evans found a book called How to Enter Sweepstakes, Contests, and Win. Doris Myers mentioned something called the Shepherd Course in Contesting. Mrs. Seltzer recommended Contestagram for sweepstakes and the Shepherd School for creative contests. Donna Gallagher subscribed to the Sweep Sheet. It was a whole ecosystem of information.
Wow, a lot of resources. What's fascinating here, I think, is how these communities and resources formed around this shared interest, even before the internet was widespread.
It really shows that human need for connection and shared knowledge, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In any pursuit, people find each other.
Yeah. And beyond publications, there were also, like, formal organizations and communities.
Definitely. Doris Myers, for example, was president of the Florida State Contesters Association. Alan Terry was a member and past president of the National Contesters Association.
So, like actual clubs and associations for a contester.
Yes, Harriet Brown, who won an incredible amount over 30 years, she joined the National Association of Contesters and even taught classes on how to win. It shows the level of expertise and dedication within these circles. They were sharing knowledge.
And I guess as the internet grew, these communities just adapted and moved online.
Absolutely. Brian Guss, who won a customized 1948 Ford, he actively searched for contests in online rooms on services like America Online back in the day.
Yeah, AOL chat rooms.
Exactly. So it clearly shows this adaptable and interconnected network of individuals, all chasing that next big win, leveraging whatever technology was available to them at the time.
So as you can see, this isn't just about, randomly throwing your name in a hat. This is about strategic engagement. For some people, treating it almost like a part-time job.
Or even more than that, the pursuit of winning really became a serious, organized hobby, and for some, definitely a lifestyle.
Okay, this whole discussion about strategy and dedication, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Is it all just about luck and following rules, or is there something else at play? Something that separates the really consistent winners from the casual dabblers?
That's a great question. And it leads us into the really fascinating mindset of a winner, the psychology behind it all.
Yeah, let's dive into that, because it seems like mindset is a huge piece of this puzzle.
It really does. Many top contesters are adamant, they state flat out. Luck has nothing to do with it. It is hard work paying off.
Like Richard Reed.
Exactly. Our 5-car winner. He spends $35 a week just on stamps, enters thousands of contests. He emphasizes his success is purely the result of his effort, not luck.
And Barbara Underwood, she had a similar take, right?
She did. She basically scoffed at the idea of luck. She said, luck? Persistence, that's the word. Persistence and a strong inclination toward addictive behavior.
Uh-huh. Points for honesty there. But it's a powerful reframing, isn't it? Taking what many people see as just random chance and saying, no, I earned this through effort.
It really is. And even those who do acknowledge some role for luck, they still firmly believe in the power of their own effort.
Like Phil Harrison.
Right. He considered himself lucky, generally lucky in contests, lucky in life, mentioned his happy marriage and kids, but he put it this way: I'm lucky. I do well because I do a lot to improve my chances.
So luck for him wasn't just passive, it was like cultivated.
Exactly. It's like luck is this cultivated receptiveness to opportunity, which you maximize through relentless effort. You make your own luck, essentially.
Okay, that makes sense. But this brings us to a particularly intriguing aspect of the contester's mindset.
Yeah.
The whole power of positive thinking and visualization thing.
Yes, this comes up surprisingly often in the accounts. Cheryl Woods, who's a best-selling author herself, she recounted this story about 2 friends.
Okay.
She said they deliberately changed their self-concept from thinking of themselves as losers to thinking of themselves as winners.
Just decided to be winners.
Apparently. And once they genuinely started believing they could win, she says they almost immediately started winning prizes. Small things at first, like a basket of goodies, a leather briefcase. But she emphasized, you have to believe that the magic will work.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. Is winning a contest truly this mix of strategy, volume, and just sheer belief?
It seems to be a potent combination for some. Freddie Stokely Sr., who won a van, a freezer full of meat, thousands in cash, he was a firm believer in what he called the visualization technique.
What did that involve for him?
He literally said, I see myself shaking hands with Ed McMahon as he's handing me the check.
Wow. Picturing the publisher's clearinghouse moment, that's a powerful mental image. A deliberate act of pre-experiencing success.
It really is. And Carol Schaffer, remember her, won a car, trips to Australia and China.
Yeah.
She explicitly stated she has a system of techniques and strategies to increase my odds of winning. And part of that seemed to be intention setting. She literally made a list of dreams when she was in her 40s.
What was on the list?
Things like Dachel Canna
Yeah.
in a movie.
Yeah.
She ended up as an extra in King of the Hill. Appear on a game show she got on to tell the truth and won $10,000. And visit China, she won a trip there through a contest.
She achieved almost all of them through contesting.
Seems like it. It's a real testament to the power of setting intentions and then systematically working towards them, using this hobby as the vehicle.
That's incredible. It's like manifesting through sweepstakes.
In a way, yeah. Steve Ledoux and Giannis Kauser are also strong proponents of this. Giannis actually taught Steve to meditate and visualize the prize while you are filling out the ballot.
Meditate on the prize. prize.
Yeah. Giannis herself visualized winning her Hawaii trip, and she joked that she never thought I'd win a man out of it too because she met her fiance on that trip.
Ah, a bonus prize.
Right. And she also writes these little cheery messages like good things are always happening on her envelopes, just in case, it makes a positive impression on the person pulling the ballot.
That positive energy thing again, this concept of visualization, it isn't just anecdotal fluff, is it? It actually ties into broader psychological theories.
It does. There was this mention of Coach Jerry Clybourne from UK football. Apparently, he used to give every freshman player a copy of the book Psycho-Cybernetics.
Okay, what's the core idea there?
The book posits this fascinating idea. Our brain and nervous system cannot tell the difference between a real experience and one which is vividly imagined.
So thinking about it feels like doing it to your brain.
Essentially, yes. Claiborne applied this by having players close their eyes and mentally rehearse plays. And a study mentioned in the book apparently showed that a group who only visualized shooting free throws improved their accuracy by 23%.
23% just from thinking about it. How did that compare to actual practice?
Almost as good. The group that physically practiced improved by 24%. So mental rehearsal alone had nearly the same impact. It suggests that visualization, even without physical action, can really prime the brain for success.
That's wild, thinking your way to better free throws. Or maybe bigger contest wins.
Possibly. And then there's Jerry Gillies, who wrote a book called Money Love. He was a proponent of what he called prosperity consciousness.
Prosperity consciousness.
Yeah, he argued you can essentially think your way to riches. He advocated practices like creative loafing, just relaxing and letting ideas come, and spending on small luxuries sometimes to reinforce a mindset of abundance, to convince yourself you're already in the money.
Interesting approach. Fake it till you make it, financially.
Sort of. He also suggested saving money for attractive, positive goals, like a dream vacation, rather than saving out of fear, like for old age or sickness. Associating money with pleasure and opportunity, not negativity.
So this whole mindset, whether you call it visualization or prosperity consciousness or just positive thinking, it seems to be a pretty significant, if maybe intangible, part of the serious contester's toolkit.
It really seems so. It demonstrates that belief, that focused intention, can be a powerful engine for the consistent action that's required.
Okay, so we've talked about the thrilling wins, the dedication, the strategies, the mindset, but while it all sounds exciting, it's crucial we look at the full picture, right?
Absolutely.
There are definite hidden costs and potential pitfalls that come with being a dedicated contester. Let's talk about those. First and foremost, something that might surprise people: taxes.
Ah, yes. The tax man cometh. Even for free prizes, it's a recurring theme for the big winners.
How did they handle it? Richard Reed, with his 5 cars in cash, he seemed pretty nonchalant about it.
He was. He basically said, it never comes out of my pocket, it comes out of winnings, implying he just set aside prize money to cover the taxes. He said he had no trouble paying them.
Okay, so plan ahead if you win big. But not everyone finds it so easy.
No. Al Morch, who won that potential $1,000 prize from Polaroid that turned out to be complicated.
Yeah, the award credits thing.
His accountant calculated he'd owe nearly $150 in additional income taxes on that $1,000 prize value. For a prize that wasn't even straightforward cash, that's a significant percentage.
Yeah, 15% off the top, effectively. Barbara Underwood, she seemed very aware of this.
She did. She called taxes the only drawback. And she actually made a strategic decision because of it. She says she usually limits herself to entering sweepstakes where the prize value is $2,000 or less.
To avoid major tax implications.
Exactly. To keep it manageable and avoid a big, unexpected tax bill. It highlights a real strategic awareness of the financial burden.
That's a smart tactic. Harry Lines, another veteran winner, he knew he had to pay income tax on anything over $600.
That's the threshold for requiring a 1099 form, usually.
Right. But he wisely pointed out that he could also write off his contest-related expenses, like postcards and stamps.
Turning those expenses into deductions. Smart accounting.
Yeah. But Donna Gallagher offered a really crucial warning that everyone considering this should probably heed.
What was that?
She said, flat out, don't enter if you don't have the money to win because you'll have to pay the taxes on the value of the prize.
Oof. That's a stark reminder, isn't it? Even free prizes have a very real financial impact, and you need to be prepared for it.
Definitely. Beyond taxes, though, there's the other dark side. The very real danger of scams and deception. People preying on hope.
Yes, unfortunately, where there's opportunity, there are often scammers. The story of Evelyn Reed, the 83-year-old widow.
Huh.
That was sad.
Remind me.
She got one of those scratch-off things in the mail from the North Shore Animal League. Scratched off 3 sevens. Prize was supposedly a car for $25,000.
Okay. Sounds promising.
She sent in the requested $5 donation, hoping to claim her prize.
Yeah.
But she never heard back about the win. All she got were more requests for donations.
Oh, no. That just highlights how these predatory schemes target vulnerable individuals, doesn't it?
It really does. Donna Gallagher, who warned about taxes, also offered some essential tips to avoid these kinds of traps.
Like what? How can you tell if a win notification is legit?
She said, if you get a phone call
Mm-hmm.
and someone says, clearly, congratulations, you've won, then it's likely legitimate.
Okay.
But if they say something vague like, you're a finalist or a semifinalist or you're qualified to win, hang up immediately. That's usually the lead-in to a sales pitch or a scam where you have to pay something.
Good distinction. Finalist doesn't mean winner.
Not at all.
Oh.
And pay attention to how you're notified by mail.
How so?
She advises that official win letters for significant prizes always come via first-class mail or a courier like FedEx or UPS, never bulk rate mail.
Why not bulk rate?
Because if it's sent bulk rate, she says, then you know hundreds, if not thousands, of others got the same thing, and it's not legit.
Ah, that's a critical tip. Bulk rate means cheap, unprioritized mass mail, not the kind of personal official notification you'd get for a real high-value prize. That's
Yeah.
a huge red flag for a scam.
Massive red flag. And she also stressed, maybe most importantly, you'll never but never be asked to pay shipping, handling, or filing fees for a legitimate prize. If they ask for money up front, it's almost certainly a scam.
Got it. No upfront fees. Harry Lines also warned about unscrupulous con artists and even mentioned a local woman who lost her life savings by not reading the fine print on something that looked like a win.
It's heartbreaking. And it raises that important question. How do some companies operate in this gray area, appearing to offer substantial prizes while maybe not delivering? Almark's Polaroid experience is a perfect case study in that.
Yeah, remind us of the details there. It sounded murky.
Very. He received a letter saying he was a potential winner.
Okay.
Fine print number 1. Then he had to get an affidavit notarized, which cost him $4 out of pocket. Then his supposed grand prize trip to the Indianapolis 500 was suddenly converted into $1,000 in award credits, usable only in a specific prize catalog.
Bait and switch, almost.
Feels like it. And when he looked at the catalog, he quickly discovered the retail values listed for the items were hugely inflated. His $1,000 in points could only buy a Sony Betamax video recorder that was actually selling for just $739 elsewhere.
So his $1,000 prize was really only worth about $740 in actual goods.
At best. And he ended up having to pay extra for additional points to get it, plus shipping costs, plus the taxes on the inflated $1,000 value.
Wow, that win ended up costing him money and hassle for something worth less than advertised.
Exactly. It highlights the absolute importance of scrutinizing every single detail, reading all the fine print, and understanding the promoter's actual legal obligations versus their marketing hype.
Definitely a cautionary tale.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have taxes, scams. What about the psychological side? Can this hobby become, well, an obsession?
It certainly seems like it can for some. Wally Krevenchuk, the guy who retired early, he admitted it becomes almost an obsession. He also said you take breaks from it because you go through periods when you're not winning. You get discouraged. So there's that cycle.
And Barbara Underwood was pretty upfront about it, too.
Oh, yeah. She just said, oh, yeah, it's addictive. I enter a contest every day. No bones about it.
And Julie Eliseo described it vividly. Once you win, it's like a fever. She said she realized she was a contest addict when she started scheduling her actual real life around radio station promotions.
That's crossing a line, isn't it, when the hobby starts dictating your life schedule?
Yeah, seems like it. Lenore de Medici also wisely commented, I guess you have to keep this hobby in check or else it could get a bit out of hand. Just acknowledging that potential.
And this connects directly to basic human psychology, Faisley, the principles of rewards and intermittent reinforcement. Well, the unpredictable nature of the winsing, the fact that you don't know when you'll win next, but you know you could win, can be incredibly motivating, like playing a slot machine. Can sometimes lead to compulsive behavior because you're always chasing that next hit, that next win.
That makes sense. The random reward schedule is powerful.
It is. However, it's worth noting, for perspective, that Harriet Simon, who worked with the family support group for obsessive-compulsive disorders, she was asked specifically about contesting compulsion, and she considered it generally an innocent thing.
So, typically a manageable hobby rather than a severe disorder for most people.
That seemed to be her view. Intense, maybe, but usually manageable.
Okay. And another potential pitfall. Sometimes the prizes themselves become a problem. Like, you win stuff you don't even want or need.
Right. Steve Ledoux, for example, mentioned winning Swiss hiking boots, rollerblades, watches, ice coolers, things he might never actually use. He said he sometimes wins prizes he doesn't even like, such as trips to events he's not interested in, or music in styles he doesn't listen to. It leads to this surplus of unwanted items cluttering up the house.
What do people do with that stuff?
Well, Jessie Oleinik, who famously won 3 washing machines.
3 washing machines? Who needs 3?
Exactly. She said if she didn't need a prize, she'd just pass it along to family members, which is generous, but still, you have to deal with it.
And then there's the sheer volume of junk mail and phone calls that can result from putting your name and address out there so often.
Oh, yes. Harry Lyons definitely complained about that. He said, you get your name on every mailing and calling list, the phone rings all the time, and I get huge piles of junk mail. That's a definite downside for many.
Though Barbara Underwood seemed less bothered by it.
She acknowledged getting some spam from entering online, but she said it was minimal if you stuck to legitimate sites run by well-known companies. So maybe careful entry choices help mitigate that somewhat.
Perhaps. It's still a good reminder that every win, even the unwanted ones, and every entry can carry an implicit cost or consequence, like dealing with clutter or spam.
Absolutely. And finally, let's not forget the direct financial investment required for this seemingly free hobby.
Right. It's not really free if you're spending a lot on postage and supplies.
Exactly. Contesters spend significantly. Richard Reed, remember, spent $35 a week just on stamps.
That's over $1,800 a year.
Yep. Faye Frasca's yearly postage bill back then was about $156, which was a lot more money at the time. Alan Terry estimated he shelled out about $2,000 a year for postage and supplies. Harry Lyons figured he spent $1,000 or more annually just on postcards and stamps.
Wow. And Laura Barstow even admitted that, at least initially for her, the postage has exceeded the value of the prizes she'd won so far.
So it's a true investment, isn't it? An investment of time and a significant investment of money, often with a very uncertain return. It turns the pursuit of a free prize into this considerable self-funded enterprise.
Okay. So, after hearing about the amazing prizes, the intense dedication, the clever strategies, but also the taxes, the scams, the potential obsession, the unwanted stuff, and the real costs,
Yeah.
it makes you ask, what is the true value of winning for these individuals?
That's the core question, isn't it? Is it purely about the money or the stuff?
It really seems from these accounts that it's often about something far deeper than just material riches.
I agree. Carol Schaffer, for instance, the one who won the car and trips and achieved her life goals through contesting. She estimated her total winnings in prizes and experiences at around $150,000.
That's a huge amount.
It is. But she stated very clearly, contesting does not make you rich, but it gives you the experiences you wouldn't get to do otherwise.
Experiences over riches.
Exactly. And she said her favorite prize wasn't a car or cash. It was that trip to Australia for the Olympics. Why? Because it was her daughter Donna's life dream to go.
So the value was in fulfilling someone else's dream, making a shared memory?
Precisely. It highlights that immense personal and emotional value that goes way beyond the monetary worth. Turning wins into shared family experiences and fulfilled dreams, that seems invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the thrill of it all comes up again and again. The excitement of the win, the sheer fun of getting unexpected gifts in the mail.
It really does. Barbara Underwood just said, it's just the thrill of it. Steve Ledoux confessed, I do it for the excitement of winning. That's the fun of it.
Marcia Snipes, who checked her mailbox daily with anticipation, she put it simply, the fun part is checking my mailbox each day to see if I've won anything. That little moment of hope each day.
And Harriet Brown added, there is no greater excitement than winning or getting notice of an affidavit, that official notification. Phil Harrison, who got weekly surprises delivered, he just said, I have to smile.
That intangible joy, right? The continuous spark of possibility, that daily or weekly dose of surprise. These are clearly powerful, intrinsic motivators that seem to go far beyond the dollar value of whatever prize might arrive.
I think you're right. So what does this all mean then? Is it about the money, the stuff, or something deeper? Maybe validation or purpose, or just the fun of the game?
It really seems the true prize for many isn't just the item itself. It's that aha moment of success, isn't it? That sense of accomplishment and the feeling that they can actively create possibilities in their own lives.
Yeah, it's about demonstrating agency, maybe.
Yeah.
Showing skill and persistence in a world that often feels random or outside of our individual control. proving you can beat the odds in a way.
What a journey into this fascinating world of contesters. We've really seen how ordinary people can achieve these extraordinary wins. And it's not just through luck, is it? It's through this incredible persistence, meticulous strategy, and often a really strong, sometimes visualized belief in their own success.
Absolutely. It's a world where the pursuit of a prize can become this defining passion, even a complete lifestyle for some, driven by this unique blend of external reward, the prizes, and that internal satisfaction of the chase and the win.
We've covered so much ground, from winning 5 cars to, well, a cemetery plot.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was an odd one. Rita Ganem won that from a drawing at a senior event. She gave it away, thankfully.
Good call.
Yeah.
And we went from crafting jingles in the 40s to understanding the nuances of accordion folding ballot submissions.
And navigating complex tax rules, avoiding those deceptive scams. It's a complex little universe.
It really is. And it's clear that while the prizes are tangible, the true value for so many of these folks seems to lie in the experience itself, the intellectual challenge, and just that ongoing thrill of the win.
Well said.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Consider this. In a world where we often feel like we're just, one small cog in a giant machine, these contest junkies, they actively seek out and create opportunities for personal triumph and tangible rewards.
They take action.
Yeah, sometimes even turning it into a path to fulfilling lifelong dreams like Carol Schaffer did. So the question maybe is, what unexpected opportunities might you discover if you applied this level of persistence, strategic thinking, and maybe even that focused self-belief to an area you're insanely curious about?